So the important thing about connecting with others is you're getting them to join you as you travel somewhere. And this really is the definition of leadership, is you're taking people somewhere they wouldn't normally go on their own. So that's really a basic definition of leadership, that a leader pushes or guides people to a place where they wouldn't normally go without the help of the leader. So when we think of connecting with people, we compare it to trains. What happens to them in a train yard? The cars sitting on the tracks in a train yard have a lot of things going for them. They have value because they're loaded with cargo. They have a destination. They have a route by which to get to that destination. But they don't have a way of getting anywhere on their own. To do anything of value, they have to hook up with a locomotive. And again, you're the locomotive if you're the leader, right? So in order for that to happen, there has to be some connection. You ever been to a train yard and watched how unrelated and disconnected pieces of equipment come together to form a working train? It's quite a process. It all begins with the locomotive. First, it switches itself onto the same track as the car it's going to pick up. Then it moves to where that car is, backs up to it, makes contact with it, and connects. Once it's all hooked up together, they move toward their destination. And it's pretty interesting, you know, how train cars connect and all that sort of thing. I grew up right next to the train tracks. There was a siding just around the corner. So trains were coming and going, and you'd hear those trains, and, you know, the locomotive would connect, and you'd hear bang, 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 all the way down the train. Is all of that would happen. And, you know, they disconnect or reconnect. And, you know, there's hydraulic hoses that automatically hook together. They're called glad hands. They look like two hands that actually connect, so they can do it without having to manually hook everything up. It's quite a process. But really, that's what's happening. Or a similar thing must happen before you can get people to go with you on a journey. You have to find out where they are, move toward them to make contact and connect with them. If you can do that successfully, you can take them to new heights in your relationship and in their development. Remember, the road to the next level is always uphill, and people need help to make it to that higher level. This is especially true in public speaking. You want to be able to connect with your audience, that there's a connection when you're talking to people. When I'm preaching, you know, I like to make eye contact with people. That's one reason why I like Zoom. You can see, Sister Brenda mentioned, you can see people's reactions and all that sort of thing. That there's, you know, you try to make eye contact. You try to show that you're interested in that person. You're not just up there talking, but you're actually trying to connect with people. That's why it's important to use humor, tell jokes, all that kind of thing. And I don't always get it right, but you know, we all strive to do these things, to try to connect with an audience before you try to get them to do something. And that's important, not only in public speaking and trying maybe on a congregation-wide level, if you're trying to motivate people to make some kind of a commitment, but it's also true in interpersonal relationships. If you're trying to lead or mentor somebody, you need to really connect with that person on a personal level. And, you know, everything boils down to trust. People aren't going to trust someone that won't connect with them, right? So you have to have that trust that's there. So 9 steps for connecting with people. Fortunately, you don't have to be an engineer to connect with people, but it does take effort to make connection happen. You'll need communication skills, a desire to help people grow and change, and a sense of personal mission or purpose. After all, you have to know where you're going to take others along. A leader that doesn't know where he's going is not a leader. Jesus said, the blind lead the blind, they both fall in the ditch, right? So you can lead people astray. You don't want to do that. You don't want to lead people out to get lost in the woods. You have to have a destination, an idea of where you're going. So that's so important. So number one thing is, don't take people for granted. You connect with people, lead them only if you value them. Weak leaders sometimes get so caught up in the vision of where they're going that they forget the people they're trying to lead. But you can't take people for granted for any length of time before your leadership begins to fall apart, and you won't be able to connect with them. So if you don't value people, if you take them for granted, you don't really show appreciation, all those sorts of things, leadership begins to disintegrate. Maxwell tells a story about a U.S. Speaker of the House that assumed next door neighbor would vote for him, and he said, well, I shoveled your driveway, I've taken out your trash, I've raked your leaves. And she's like, yeah, but it's still nice to be asked, right? That's, just because I know you doesn't mean I'm automatically going to vote for you, right? So that's kind of, you know, we don't want to take people for granted. Um, Someone once said, anytime you devalue people, you question God's creation of them. Everyone's created in the image of God. And we need to see the image of God in people that, we disagree with, or we agree with, or, people that are different from us. We need to remember, that person is still created in the image of God. You can never tell people too often, too loudly, or too publicly how much you love them. And, I've tried to make that a habit, that I really appreciate each and every one of you, and your support and everything that you do for the church and for the Lord. That's not something I just say. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And my wife gets after me, she said, did you tell the person? Because I'll tell her how much I appreciate everybody. She's like, well, did you tell the person? And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should. So I need to get better at it. Praise God. I really do. Number 2, possess a make a difference mindset. If you desire to accomplish something great and really want to see it happen, you need to possess a make a difference attitude. Anytime you don't believe you can make a difference, you won't. It's one of those things, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Do you believe that you can make a difference? Absolutely. That's why we're here. So how do you cultivate a solid make a difference mindset? So every person on earth, including you, has the potential to make a difference, but you can do it only if you believe in yourself and are willing to give yourself away to others. As Helen Keller said, life is an exciting business, and most exciting when lived for others. You may not be able to help everybody, but you can certainly help somebody. And you can do a lot for one person, or 2 or 3 people, but it might not be everybody, but there's always some people that you can have an impact in their life. Believe what you share can make a difference. There's the authors of the book here, John Maxwell and Jim Dornan, says, we believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. We're certain that people's attitudes make or break them. And we know that there's no joy, peace, or meaning in life without faith. You have to believe that what you have to offer others can make a difference in their lives. No one wants to follow a person without conviction. You think about this. The president of Ukraine, Vladimir, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce his last name. But anyway, he was offered a ride out of Ukraine this week. Someone said, we'll send in a plane, we'll get you out of there, we'll make sure you're safe. And he said, I didn't ask for a ride, I asked for ammunition. That's conviction. That's true leadership. That I didn't ask for a ride, I asked for ammunition. And I've seen pictures of, he's dressed for battle, he's ready to lead the troops. He wants to show leadership and really demonstrate that he's there with the people. He's not taking a plane load of cash and disappearing somewhere, but he's there to see it through. That's what real leadership looks like. And you can agree or disagree with everything that's happening there, but true leadership, that's what's being seen there. That I didn't ask for a ride, I asked for ammunition. That's quite a statement, and it shows true leadership. That's conviction. That's someone that people will be inspired to follow. When someone makes a statement like that, that's it really shows that they believe in their cause. Believe the person you share with can make a difference. If you have a high opinion of others, they'll start to have an high opinion of you. That believe in people. We've talked about that earlier in this series. Believe that together you can make a big difference. There's been research done that shows what one horse can pull. Maybe that's 1,250 pounds or something. You'd think 2 horses could pull 2,500 pounds, but it's not. It's not double. It's much more. It's like 10 times the amount 2 horses can pull compared to 1 horse. Because when you put 2 horses together, it multiplies their power. It's exponentially more. So together we can do much more than we can alone. And there's a funny story about a famous organist in the 1800s that illustrates the importance of recognizing valuable partnerships. The musician traveled from town to town giving concerts. In each town, he hired a boy to pump the organ during the concert. After one particular performance, he couldn't shake the boy. He even followed the organist back to his hotel. "We sure had us a great concert tonight, didn't we?" said the boy. "What do you mean we?" said the musician. "I had a great concert. Now why don't you go home?" The next night, when the organist was halfway through a magnificent part of the concert, the organ suddenly quit. The organist was stupefied. Then suddenly the little boy stuck his head around the corner of the organ, grinned, and said, "We ain't having a very good concert tonight, are we?" You can't do it without me, right? It's a team effort here. You might be the one everybody sees, but there's somebody behind the scenes pumping that organ. You're not doing anything without them. So if you want to connect with people, take them with you to a higher level, recognize the difference you make as a team and acknowledge it at every opportunity. It really does take a team to be successful. Number 3, initiate movement toward them. And this is important. I teach a lot on the importance of people showing initiative. I want people to come and talk to me, let me know how you want to be involved, all that sort of thing. But it really takes a leader reaching out to people as well. According to Tom Peters and Nancy Austin, the #1 managerial productivity problem in America is quite simply managers who are out of touch with their people and out of touch with their customers. So lack of contact and communication is a problem that affects many people, not just managers and organization. So we believe there are many reasons why people don't connect with one another more than they do. A primary reason, especially within organizations, is that many leaders believe that it is the follower's responsibility to initiate contact with them. But the opposite is true. To be effective, leaders must be initiators. If they don't go to their people, meet them where they are, initiate the connection, 80% of the time, no connection will be made. 80% of the time, no connection will be made. That's why this right here probably drives my wife crazy, but I use it a lot to connect with people. It's probably my #1 tool for evangelism right here. Because otherwise, how do you know where people are? Are they going to come to church? Are they not going to come to church? You know, and I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit over COVID and not knowing whether to contact people or not. And you call people and they say, you know, you get no answer, and nobody wants to come to church and all that kind of thing. And then you get other people that are, "Where you been?" But anyway, I've really found a key to our growth over the last few years has been right here. Contacting people, calling them, texting them, bugging them a little bit. You know, you can be in church on Sunday. Didn't see you last week. Until it gets to the place where I can't keep up with it. That's really important. And, you know, if you haven't heard from me, don't skip church just so you hear from me. You know, but that's usually what gets me out. Oh, I haven't seen somebody in a while, you know, start bugging them. Because 80% of the time, if the leader doesn't reach out, there's no connection made at all. And that's just the stats. So very important that we do that. And, you know, especially if you're a house church leader, we've really tried to emphasize this point that you connect with the people in your area. If you're leading a house church and there's a neighborhood, you get the names and addresses of people in your neighborhood and really you go after them, you know, pursue it, chase them down, because that's where we had a bottleneck. As you grow, the pastor can't be the one doing all the phone calling. We've got 600 plus names in Alvanto. I can't call them all every week. So that's where we need more leaders that can say, okay, well, I'll be responsible for this area or whatever. So that's very important. We initiate the contact. #4, look for common ground. Anytime you want to connect with another person, start where both of you agree. And that means finding common ground. This comes back to the listening skills we talked about earlier. Try to look for areas, you know, as you're listening, where you have common experience or views. You know, talk about hobbies, where you've lived, your work, sports, children, you know, whatever it is. You know, find something that's common ground. An area where you can talk about it. What you discuss isn't as important as your attitude. Be positive, try to see things from the other person's point of view. Being open and likable is half the battle. So, that's the main thing is, this is where wanting to be liked is actually a good thing, because you're gonna be more likable if you're trying to get people to like you. It's sometimes said, all things being equal, people will do business with people they like. All things not being equal, they still will. People want to do business with people they like. There's several businesses where I've like, I don't like the way they treat me here. I'm going somewhere else. I won't come back. And the thing is, the church can be the same way. People don't bother to tell you that you're rude or they don't like you or whatever. They just don't come back. So we kind of have to go the extra mile in making sure that we're doing our best to be friendly and kind and all that. What else we got here? I took a note one time that we do not need a solo attitude. That, I don't care what other people think. I don't care, I'm going to do my thing, whatever. So there's kind of a balance here. On the one hand, we shouldn't care too much what other people think, but on the other hand, we should care what people think. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to be abrasive. We don't want to be pushing people away. But at the same time, we can't be paralyzed by worrying about how others think about it. Number 5, recognize and respect differences in personality. We're capable of finding ground with others, but at the same time, we need to acknowledge that we're all different. And that's one of the great joys of life, though we don't always see it that way. Praise God that people are different. Like, thank God you're not all like me. And everybody said amen. You can only handle one of me, probably. So, Sister Brenda says amen. I'm all you can handle. It's the same for all of us, right? Like, we're all different. And that's so important to recognize that that is a positive thing. We need each other's differences. There's so many areas that each of us can be blessed in. And just having a basic understanding of personality types can go a long way here. Florence Littauer has written several books on personalities. And in those books, she refers to the different personality types. Basically, the 4 personality types they use is based on the ancient Greek thought. Number 1 is sanguine. And this is someone that desires fun, is outgoing, relationship-oriented, witty, easygoing, popular, artistic, emotional, outspoken, and optimistic. So, we find these are usually the people that are the life of the party. They like to have fun. They like to have a lot of friends. They're just that life of the party kind of person. Yeah, and everybody wants to be around them. They can be that fun person to be around. On the flip side, there's the opposite of that, which is a melancholy. They desire perfection, is introverted, task-oriented, artistic, emotional, goal-oriented, organized, and pessimistic. And their goal in life is perfection. Everything has to be perfect for the melancholy. And they're very good at making sure things get done right. You want something done right, you ask a melancholy. They're great at that. They excel. Then you have the phlegmatic. This is in between those two. This is someone that desires peace, is introverted, unemotional, strong-willed, relationship-oriented, pessimistic, and purpose-driven. So the phlegmatic, their thing is a Coke and a hammock, just don't bother me, I'm resting, right? So that's, I could name names, I'll be kind. But they make great negotiators. They make great, they're very steady, even though they may not move fast. So, every personality has pluses and minuses. I pick on phlegmatics because they're the opposite of me, which is the last one, that's the choleric. So named because the author thought the person had a permanent stomach ache because they were always so difficult to get along with. This is someone who desires power, control, is strong-willed, decisive, goal-oriented, organized, unemotional, outgoing, outspoken, and optimistic. And sometimes you find people that are a combination of 2 of these. They kind of fall somewhere in between a couple, or there may be a balance of 3, but These personality types will get into conflict. For example, the melancholy wants everything to be perfect. The sanguine just wants to have fun. That's a setup for conflict right there. Someone wants to just have fun. They don't care if everything's done right. They just want to have fun. So that's where things get interesting. Or the choleric and the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic is usually a slower paced individual, and the choleric wants everything done yesterday. So they're a setup for conflict as well, because their personality types are opposite. So you can see how these things work. But when you can appreciate the differences and the strengths that come from each of these areas, and we sometimes emphasize the negative, but there's a lot of positive things in each of these things I read here. People that are relationship oriented or goal oriented, those are all great things, and we need both in order to succeed as a church or an organization or whatever. As you connect with others, recognize and respect their differences and motivation. With cholerics, connect with strength. With melancholies, connect by being focused. With phlegmatics, connect by giving assurance. And with sanguines, connect with excitement. I can tell I've got a little bit of sanguine in me, because my question when I meet people is like, oh, what's new and exciting? Well, phlegmatic, they're trying to avoid excitement. That's they're like, oh, I want to find the excitement. What's happened that's exciting. So the sanguines are all about the excitement. But that's what'll get a sanguine going. You talk about what's exciting. So these are all important to note. You don't approach everybody the same way, and kind of the quieter, slower paced types, they're not going to be as excited as you are if you're a faster person like me. Playwright John Luther understood this point. He said, natural talent, intelligence, and a wonderful education, none of these guarantees success. Something else is needed, the sensitivity to understand what other people want and the willingness to give it to them. Pay attention to people's personalities and do your best to meet them where they are. They'll appreciate your sensitivity and understanding. Number 6, find the key to others' lives. Andrew Carnegie had an uncanny ability for understanding people and what was important to them. It said that when he was a boy in Scotland, he had a rabbit that had a litter of bunnies. To feed them, Carnegie asked the neighborhood boys to collect clover and dandelions. In return, each boy got to name a bunny after himself. So that'll motivate them. They'll get to name a bunny after themselves. Carnegie did something similar as an adult that showed his understanding of people. Because he wanted to sell his steel to the Pennsylvania Railroad, he built a new steel mill in Pittsburgh. He named it the J. Edgar Thompson Steel Works after the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Thompson was so flattered by the honor that he thereafter purchased all his steel from Carnegie. So you might say, well, that's kind of a sneaky thing to do. He names the plant after the guy that he's trying to get to buy the steel, but it worked. The guy was so flattered by it that he bought all his steel from that plant. Here's the thing. You don't have to be a Carnegie to connect with people. You just need to know what's important to them. Everybody has a key to his or her life. All you need to do is find it. Here are 2 clues to help you do it. Understand a person's mind, examine what he's already achieved. Understand his heart, look at what he aspires to do. That will help you find the key, and once you do find it, use it with integrity. Turn the key only when you have the person's permission, and even then, use that key only for his benefit, not your own, to help and not to hurt. And that's important. Sometimes people in leadership will abuse their power, and we want to be very careful as Christians that we never abuse any power that we have just because of things we know about other people. You're going to get to know people well. You're going to know what makes them tick. You'll be very careful not to abuse the power you have over others. And that's a great danger in leadership, and one that anyone in leadership needs to guard against, that you don't abuse power to try to use it for your own benefit. Number 7, communicate from the heart. Here's a funny story. A young man with a brand new degree in psychology was asked to deliver a speech to a group of senior citizens. For 45 minutes, he talked to them on how to live your twilight years gracefully. When the speech was over, an 80-year-old woman came up to the young speaker and said, "Your vocabulary and pronunciation were excellent. But I must tell you one thing that you'll come to understand as you get older. You don't know what you're talking about." You know, what's a guy in his 20s know about aging gracefully, right? You might have a degree in psychology, but you still don't know what you're talking about. You might have been better off finding a different topic, right? So here's the thing. You can have all the words right, but if you don't know what you're talking about, people will know that. People are going to know you don't know what you're talking about. So very important that you be genuine. Being genuine is the single most important factor when communicating with others, whether one-on-one or before large audiences. No amount of knowledge, technique, or quick-wittedness can substitute for honesty and a genuine desire to help others. That's really what it boils down to. Be sincere, be genuine. You know, you can't pretend to be something you're not. And something my sister and I used to tell each other, probably at least on a weekly basis growing up, was be yourself. Everyone else is taken. That's still good advice. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So God created you to be you, not to be anybody else. Don't try to pretend to be somebody else. Don't imitate somebody else. Just be yourself. Number 8, share common experiences. To really connect with others, you have to do more than find common ground and communicate well. You need to find a way to cement the relationship. You can be intentional about this. Go fishing together with somebody. Go do stuff together. Sister Brown, she likes to do sewing with people, whatever. You know, there's ways you can connect with people by sharing common experiences. You know, go on a trip. You know, those of us in leadership, we're going on a trip this weekend to the Ministers and Spouses Retreat. There's things we can do to kind of have those shared experiences. Go to youth convention together. Go to camp together. There's all kinds of opportunities on the church front. You know, you can have shared experiences. Enjoy some maple candy together after service. You know, that's a shared experience, right? There's all these things we can do that kind of slow down the pace a little bit and really enjoy some time together and really get to know each other. It's really key to building relationships and getting that foundation of knowledge about each other together. Example given, John Maxwell, he travels and he does all these things, and he takes anybody that's new in his company with him on these trips so that he gets to know the person while they're traveling and all that sort of stuff, which is a great way to build that bridge. So you want to build bridges with people. You want to make sure that you're gaining influence to anyone you're trying to mentor or teach or whatever. It's very good. And this is why when you're teaching a home Bible study, this is also important. That you don't just spend that 1 hour together a week. And sometimes that works. You're doing all those things in the Bible study. This is why Bible studies are important. But it can also be helpful to do other things alongside the Bible study, whether that's other activities or whatever. So it depends on the individual, but the more you can do to connect with the person, the better. Number 9, once connected, move forward. If you want to influence others, you desire to get them moving in the right direction, you must connect with them before you try to take them anywhere. Coming back to that locomotive, a locomotive going by itself down the tracks is not taking a load anywhere. We have to connect with that person to get them where they're going. Attempting to do it before connecting is a common mistake of inexperienced leaders. Trying to move others before going through the connection process with them can lead to mistrust, resistance, and strained relationships. And this is very important, that we connect with people before we try to influence them too much. You put pressure on a stranger, they're just going to walk away, right? So, and I'm not suggesting we pressure people, but there's people will be more likely to allow you to lead them if they feel that connection with you. Uh, Someone once observed, leadership is cultivating in people today a future willingness on their part to follow you into something new for the sake of something great. That, connection creates that willingness. That, if we really believe that God has called us to lead revival, for example, we need to connect with others that would have that shared vision, but that would also be willing to allow us to be that leader in their lives, so we can mentor them in the things that we've already learned and the things of God. That, God has blessed each one of us here with so much experience and knowledge of his word that we can now begin to share that with others. But we have to have that foundation of connection and trust and all of that so that we can bring them to where we are. And that's true whether you're fairly new in church or if you've served the Lord for decades. You have things that you can share with others that can help them grow. And, sometimes it's just pointing them to the same leader that you're following, but there's always something you can do to help others grow in their walk with the Lord. Challenge for any influencers connecting with people from another culture. And they tell an interesting story about they were working with people in Eastern Europe. Of course, this book was written in the early 90s. This is shortly after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And many of the people had grown up or even had business during the Soviet era, and they were now working in countries where it was still very corrupt. And today, I don't know how much that has changed, but their whole mindset toward business was you cheat the best you can and beat them at their own game. The more corrupt you can be, if you can do it better than they can do it, so much the better. You've outsmarted them and you made more money this year than the other company by being more crooked. That was like a badge of honor. And they were trying to teach the principles of this book that, we started off talking about integrity, that's the key to success. So they had this whole thing where they had to kind of help people see the value of living with integrity and not being corrupt. And, that took a lot of work on their part of being able to connect with people and have that change happen for them. They began to show them the positive benefits of living a life of integrity. And that took a lot of work, but I can only imagine. But, when we're dealing cross-culturally, of course, we're a very multicultural church, that is a challenge. That there are people groups that are going to find it easier to trust than others. And sometimes that's related to just their experience or, sometimes even the way things are portrayed in the media or whatever. But by being genuine and following all these things we've talked about here tonight, we can build a relationship with people that they know that we're trustworthy, and they can begin to really appreciate the leadership that we're able to provide. So that's so important. And I look for key leaders that can be effective in reaching other cultures. If someone else can be more effective, they have more in common, then I want to empower that leader. I want to see people from different culture groups that can rise to leadership and be used in different things. So that's so important that it's not just one culture that runs all the leadership. And it's actually a major concern of mine in our church that our platform is too white. I'll say it. And I'm not saying that for political correctness. I'm saying that because our church is diverse and it's not reflected in our leadership. But the issue is we need leadership to come up from the church, right? So we have different cultures and different nationalities and ethnicities within our church, but they're not adopting our mission, our identity, those sorts of things that really have nothing to do with race. So someone has to be living holy before we can put them on the platform, obviously. So that's there's a bridge there that needs to be built. There needs to be some kind of understanding coming back and forth to say, how can we get more new people involved more quickly from other cultures and things like that without compromising what we believe. And that's been the challenge for the last 3 years, that we cannot compromise. That's not a negotiable. But how do we get people to really see and adopt the values of Sudbury United Pentecostal Church that are from other cultures, so that we can use them in leadership? And that's really been a challenge for me as a pastor. It's one that we have not yet surmounted. So pray that we can. Pray that we'll have. I would love to see more African leadership in our church. I would love to see some Africans that I could put on the platform. And I say that because we have a large African group in our church. It should reflect who's there. It's not about gender quotas or race quotas or any of that stuff. We're not talking about political correctness. We're talking about, as a church, if we're diverse, our leadership should reflect that. Praise God. Amen. Any comments or questions?